Welcome to Chew the Fat. In this series, I sit down with high-performance guests over their favorite meal, and we unpack lessons in life, in business, and what it takes to be at the top. This is all part of my journey to raise $1 million by producing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. Follow along on my Instagram, Frank Greeff. I hope you enjoy. Jesse Freeman.
Frank.
Food Coma Eats.
Yes.
Welcome to
Thank
Chew
you.
the Fat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Today you wanted a beef tostada. I got very excited about this one, and I got my culinary enthusiasm out. So we've got rare beef, a homemade chili sauce, some pickled onion, and a freshly made tostada. Take a bite.
Beautiful. All right, let's give this a go. Oh, that's epic.
So where I'd love to start is, could you give me a bit of an insight as to what your Instagram and your social profile is all about?
Oh man, it's the start of a very long story, but Food Coma Eats is a culmination of many years of me transitioning and moving with whatever I felt was right at the time. It started out as a YouTube channel with one of my best mates, Lockie. We G'd each other up to do it, and we just started doing competitive eating, which at the time wasn't really big in Australia. It's now getting quite big.
How long ago was that?
That was 6 years ago.
Wow.
Can you believe it? Feels like I'm getting old now. And we did this YouTube channel. We just went around to places in Sydney. And it taught me a lot about engaging with people, restaurants, people, owners, and learning how to have conversations and learn about people's businesses and get to know how to basically pitch and get in a room with people. And so this YouTube stuff was just so priceless. So I did this YouTube stuff and it started to get traction. Then I started getting photos of these challenges I was doing. And then next thing I knew, the Instagram just started taking off. I was getting like 400 or 500 followers a week, and then it went to 400 or 500 followers a day. And then overnight the account was at 200,000, and then it just kind of kept rolling on.
Give me an insight as to what are these challenges? I heard the word challenges, and you piqued my interest.
I've said it a lot. So it's made famous by a guy called a show called Man vs. Food.
Yes.
Adam Richmond. I've actually met him personally. He's a wonderful bloke. And it's all about one person sitting down and eating a very large meal as quickly as possible, or within a time limit. So the first one I ever did was just here in Manly, actually, just around the corner, and it was at the Bavarian, where you have to eat 1 kilo of veal schnitzel and 4 sides. These sides are about this big, so it's not a huge amount of food.
Sorry to the vegans out there.
My mate did it with me. He did quite well. Like he got through about nearly 3 of these schnitzels, but then he just kind of had to tap out. He was like, "Man, I can't take any more." And then I finished the challenge in something like 14 minutes, and the staff there were just like, "What?"
14 minutes for 1.2 kilograms of veal schnitzel.
Yeah, and also 4 sides.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it caught a lot of attention, and that's something that really resonated with me quick. I was like, whoa, I do this crazy thing and people really pay attention. There's probably something here. And so, it was just one of those things, and that felt easy. Like that wasn't even me really pushing to the biggest point. And then, the second challenge I ever did was just across the road, Cronides. They have a 1 meter pizza challenge, and you win free food for a year, which at the time, because I was a student working 4 jobs, paying stupid amount of rent, I was like, well, that sounds like a win to me. So I did it, and then it actually turned into something that was really beautiful because it gave me an opportunity to have one-on-one time with people once a week for 52 weeks in a year. So I would take someone different every week.
Wow.
Every week, I promised I would take someone different, whether it be mum by herself, dad by himself, my sister-in-law, my friend who I went to uni with. It gave me 52 chances to have quality time with someone.
And you did all 52 times?
Yeah, every week. Some people got a repeat. So, my wife, obviously, we were very, very new to dating at the time, so she got a couple of extra visits. But I got through it, but I did it a few times. I actually won that challenge about 2 or 3 years in a row.
So you got the...
I kept going. And it taught me a lot about the importance of quality time and also just taking time out of your schedule to talk to people and just see what's going on and asking good questions and learning more about what's going on, and just being an interested person.
Yes.
And there's just so much value in that.
Love that.
Yeah.
So okay, so that, now I understand the challenges. So
Yeah.
now bring me back. So the channel is growing.
Yeah.
And what is it like today that you're trying to kind of push out and engage with your audience?
I'm trying to give my audience something that's physical now. Many years I was so unattainable, very inaccessible. I was only accessible to people here in Sydney. Nowadays I'm trying to bring something physical and tangible to people's hands. And funny, you know, you're in the process of doing a cookbook yourself. I've just finished one.
Oh, nice.
And you know, for me, it's not actually about the recipes. I purposely called the title 20 Instagrammable burgers because
Yes.
I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a chef, and it's 20 Instagrammable burgers that you've got to try. And for me, it wasn't about the recipes. It was about telling the story of how food interacts with our biggest memories in our lives. I'm sure you can remember some of the biggest meals that you had on some of the biggest deals you ever did, and just how much it plays such an important and pivotal point in our lives.
Yes.
And so I'm doing that, and it's a really great book. I love it. It's got that really kind of Australian twang with a colloquial feel, and you know, there's a lot of storytelling about my past and what I grew up with, and also just giving people the little things that they need to know when it comes to smashing a burger and doing stuff like that. So that's really good. And then also the other tangible product is this one right here, Dip at Sydney.
Good branding, I like it.
Thank you. Product placement. We need Fiji water here one day.
Yeah, well, as soon as they sponsor us.
Yeah, and so Dip It is just, we're trying to reinvent burgers. We're not trying to be, and there's no problem with the burger scene out there. I think we have some of the most creative burger chefs in the world. I've been over the world and tried burgers, and Australia is just absurdly good. But I'm trying to change gears a little bit, and it's all about providing people with a consommé or jus style texture that they dip their burgers in, but with a range of flavors. Like have you ever had a French onion dip burger?
Yeah, no, not burger.
Oh, well, it was really popular maybe 2 years ago, and
It's like the cheesy dippy sauce.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
and
seen
like
those.
you put your burger in there.
I'm not gonna lie, they make my tummy feel secretly. Like those
Sounds
ones.
heavy. Yeah, but no, it's you dip it in there, it's dripping off the burger, and you bite into it, it's just exploding with flavor. And I just sat there eating a French onion dip burger, and I was like, why hasn't anyone done more than just one flavor?
Very cool.
There's people who've cheese dipped, and that's pretty rough. Like liquid cheese. I wanted it to be a pleasant experience where people can have it again and again and again. So we've got about 7. Well, we actually probably have 10 flavors. Wet dips, and then people do a dry dip after, so they get
Very
a crunch.
cool.
So it's all about creating a culinary experience that's accessible and easy for people to enjoy.
Awesome. Give me a little taste test example of some of the creative dips that you might be doing.
Okay, so my favorite combo at the moment, it's a really weird, it's two completely different countries coming together.
Yep.
So we've got like a Korean style gochujang, which is like sticky and tart and like sour and a little bit of chili, and they're not too hot. And then we've got Parmesan dust.
Whoa.
So like really, really fine Parmesan dust. So there's no crunch in that, but if you do it with a fried chicken burger,
Jesus.
you get all the gochujang like dripping off the front of your burger, and then you're dipping it in this Parmesan dust, and it just creates this beautiful, almost like glaze over the top. And it is a flavor bomb.
Wow.
You'd only have one.
Yeah.
This is not the one that you'd have every day,
Yeah.
but it is just about, it is just such an experience for people.
I can tell that genuinely is your favorite, because as you started talking about it, you were trying to hide the huge smirk and smile on your face. So that's good. I can see the enthusiasm. And that's where I want to go next. You touched on something there in the cookbook, and you piqued my interest, which is around your past and your story.
Yes.
And so bring me back as like, what is that childhood that's created the person that sits in front of me today?
There's such a, and I speak about it briefly in the book, but there was something so valuable about my household growing up. My parents, they're both, they're Christian, and they've been part of many different communities. And one of the most beautiful things, and something that has always stayed with me and touched me from a very early stage of my life, is just how welcoming they are for people. My parents, it didn't matter what your story was, where you were coming from. If you needed a place to stay, they'd if we had room, it was like a revolving door, but like they would welcome people in, and mum would feed them. She'd encourage me to sit there. So I'd be up on the, doing chopping onions and stuff like that, mushrooms, and she'd get me involved, and we would feed these people, and we'd sit around the table, and it's the most magical thing happens at the dinner table with my family. We talk about big things, and we challenge each other, and we encourage each other, and the way that my family interacts at the dinner table really brings me a lot of, it makes me feel whole. And so that was such an important part of what made me feel such an intense love for food, and just how a meal with someone can bring so much depth, and it can create an atmosphere where people feel open and they can talk. But then they're sharing an experience. It's just, there's nothing that beats it. So I grew up in that household, and then, I found that my life was just then always dictated by food. I got to learn how to do like French patisserie when I was like a kid, and mum got me involved in these French speaking classes. And so I was learning French, but then part of it is I had to do something physical as well, because I was pretty much ADHD.
You're in good company.
Yeah. Hey man, good for high achievers. And so I had to learn how to do French, but I also had to learn how to cook, and that was really cool. Being able to combine learning and also cooking, it just is such a cool experience. And so yeah, I had a really great childhood, and it was just all about, it's all about giving, and it's all about giving people a space, and food does that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Again, I could hear immediately in the inflection of your voice as I brought you there and you started to talk about that moment in your home. You're like centered, and I can see that in your eye. I can see the passion and enthusiasm. It's really beautiful. It's really nice to see. And how else do you think that shaped you above and beyond the food? How else do you think that upbringing has shaped you?
Definitely the dinner conversations, because there's no hiding from what you're trying to achieve in life when you go to a dinner table with my family. You have to be able to put in words what you're trying to do, and that's actually how I broke to mum and dad that I was going to be doing Food Coma Eats. I sat them down at Cronides.
Very good. Shout out.
That's like a bit of a soft opening, because they already know, and I'm having that nice dinner with them, and I sat them down. I said, look, I want to achieve this. I think I've got something here. I don't know yet, but I'm going to put it all on the line. I'm going to drop everything, and I'm going to do it. And so I really would have to say, like, my parents taught me a lot about asking the hard questions and being able to tell people with, what's the word? It's like, not strength.
Confidence?
No. Absolute, no, I can't think of it anymore. There's a word for it.
Good.
But just absolute confidence in what you're going to do. And, I didn't think that I was going to change the world, and I still haven't gotten even close, but I said that I think I've got something here, and I'm willing to put in the work. And so having those conversations over a dinner table, they bring so much time for people to think, and it's good to challenge people in a loving way. Yes. You got to be able to ask questions in a loving way that doesn't make people feel like they're doing the wrong thing, but more saying, how can you do it better? And that, honestly, that definitely goes into my business. I now, whenever I sit down and talk to my dad, he's retired now, he's got all the time in the world to talk to me. We have a conversation about how I could do things better in my business. And I get excited when I can come to him and say, well, I did this one thing, I managed to cut our chicken cooking time to half, and, increase shelf life. And so it's really exciting for me to be able to crystallize with people what I'm trying to achieve and the steps I'm doing to get there.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing there too, which is coming out, is those dinner conversations has strengthened you from a young age around communication.
Yes.
Because as you sit here, next to me today, like I can hear your ability to articulate what you want, and I can see that, as a young whippersnapper getting challenged by the oldies in the room, it looks like it's a really good strength and a good strength for your team. My question for you is, what does your dad say? Give me an example of what he does say you could do better in your business.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Oh. So one of the conversations my dad is having with me at the moment is being, obviously trying to be a market leader, and dad's, excuse me,
Okay.
dad's always asking, what's your competitive advantage?
Love it.
Our competitive advantage is a few different things. Price point. That's a huge one. Exposure through my own channels.
Yes.
Marketing is a huge one because it's what I do for work.
Perfect.
But he keeps saying to me, well, what's stopping someone from copying you?
It's a good question, Dad.
No, it's a great question. And so I have to articulate to him exactly why my product is it can't be copied. And I actually can't say it to you because if I say it here, people will know what to copy.
Okay, good. I know not to ask the question.
No. But I have found ways to make my product something that's unique and can't be copied. Obviously, being first to market's huge.
Yes.
That's a big one. And that's something that I can say here, and I'm not giving away any secrets. But there are other things in my business that are pillars that make us very different and make it very hard to copy. And there's a few things techniques of how we do things that cut down times and areas and streamline processes. And that's all the nitty gritty nuts and bolts stuff of a business that, often is quite dry and boring, but for me it's exciting and I get really, really keen to talk about
You're
it.
speaking to the right audience.
Yeah.
Don't stress, not boring you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so the follow-up to that would be, what else? So that's one area around competitive advantage. What else? What other piece of encouraging advice or questioning, lovingly challenging?
Lovingly challenging.
Has it given you?
Time wasting.
Good, tell me more.
Time wasting. Dad always challenges me on areas where things can be optimized and prioritized. And there's something like, he's from a finance background.
Yes.
My family are a family of accountants.
Amazing.
So you can imagine that. And so a lot of what we have to do, and a lot of when you look at a business, is understanding where there's waste.
Yeah.
And eliminating waste can sometimes be hard because you can sometimes have an emotional connection to waste, whether it be a certain product that you love.
Yes.
So, for us, it's looking at, what's not selling well, and really putting your eggs in, not all one basket, but putting a lot more eggs in the basket that makes you the most money, and is the most popular thing. And so learning to eliminate waste is such an important part of what I've learned from my dad, and also just the conversations that I've had with mum as well, because she's an accountant and she's in it every day, and she sees what other businesses are doing and where their inefficiencies are, and challenging me on where my inefficiencies are and how I can eliminate that waste.
So I've heard of you lovingly called as Tarzan. And as you sit in front of me today, I can see. What I don't see from you as the guy that's the food challenge 1.2 kilo guy. I see you as someone who clearly likes to train and take care.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that. So talk to me about, what do you do in your day, in your week, to kind of keep yourself at that peak? Tarzan.
Tarzan. Shout out to my mates. They obviously think of me highly. For me, it's actually a stimulation thing. It's actually mental and physical stimulation, and it gives me drive to do something that's mentally and physically stimulating. My problem with training is I want to learn something, and when I learn something and I get to that point of where I've reached that learning capacity, and I'm not trying to break records, I move to the next thing. It's gotten shorter and shorter and shorter over the years. So for the first 13 years of my professional sporting life, I was a triathlete. So tiny little thing, tiny for me. I was like 80 kilos. And, and
ouch, that hurts my feelings.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here at 83. Thank you.
Hey, that's great. No, but I was tall and skinny, and light and efficient. And it took me 13 years to realise maybe a triathlon wasn't for me, even though I was pretty good. But after I finished triathlon, I needed something because you see a lot of professional athletes out there with terrible mental health issues because their whole world is based off their personality in sport. But what do they have otherwise? So I needed to find a transition. So I found the gym. and the gym is the best. Gym is a little bit more time.
Yep.
When you're time poor, you can get a lot more out in the gym. And so then I moved from that to bodybuilding. I took on a lot of time looking at nutrition. You know, it'd be like, I'm sure you're the same, like you obsess over the information. It'd be like 2 or 3 hours every night just up reading articles and trying to figure out what works for me. But if I was going to boil it down, I'd say it's intermittent fasting. Huge one for me. Being able to maintain my energy levels without food is really important because I'm not then reliant on something to give me drive.
Yes.
I can control my own drive. And it's also just practicing self-control.
Yes.
And that gives you a lot of ability when you're making big decisions and being able to center yourself, breathe and go, okay, I can do this without needing something to help you, you know? So intermittent fasting is huge. I've kind of gone into the world of calisthenics and plyometrics.
Interesting.
So how can I move my body as well and as efficient as possible with the most power for the size of person I am?
Yep.
And it's all about, for me, it's about learning new things when I'm training. And that's what gives me stimulation. And so 3 years ago, it was powerlifting. And then, you know, more recently it's calisthenics, but then it was bodybuilding, and then it was, you know, how do I optimize my diet? So it's not necessarily just in training. It's about areas within the training sphere.
Yes.
You know, it could be nutrition, it could be training, it could be rest and sleep, and trying to optimize, eliminate waste.
Very good.
In those areas.
Nice. That's really, really cool. And I can for everybody who's listening, you have to pop up the video now because his biceps are pretty jacked. So well done. So good job.
I wore a long shirt.
Yeah, he's hiding it. So what I hear there is around that optimization, the continual learning, the growth, and I guess not being afraid of change.
Yeah.
I see those as really key fundamentals into a business.
Yes.
And something your dad touched on around competitive advantage and something I want to kind of drill into is competitive advantage needs to shift over time.
Yes.
So what you do today as a business, you know, day 1 compared to day, you know, year 5 and year 10, year 15, if it's the same, you will not succeed, unfortunately. You know, like it will not work. And so I hear that as like a pillar of your life. And I think that's very valuable and very important strength to be able to adapt and change and continually learning. What do you do from a business sense to make sure that you're continually to push yourself from your learning, from that change? Like, how do you do that? How do you bring that into Dip It?
It's hard because time management is huge. When you start something new, and when you're trying to optimize or when you're trying to, when you're adding things to your business, you don't know how long each project takes. So whether it be us rejigging the kitchen, or whether it be adding things into our prep cycle. So it might save us time during service, but also how much time does it take up in prep? So one of the hardest things is actually trying to figure out how you are for time management. But I think it's important to strive towards projects that are just gonna constantly make your business better and more optimized. But picking out those projects is very hard, and the time cost as well is something that needs to be thought about.
Yes.
For me, writing the book was a huge time cost.
How long did that take?
It's been a 2-year process.
Wow. Okay.
But obviously, I had it written in 3 months.
Yeah.
The writing's the easy part. And I mean, I have to kind of thank COVID for that. Because it was COVID.
Shout outs to COVID.
Yeah, thanks COVID, you asshole. I had a lot of head space and head noise, and I needed to channel that energy into something. And that's something that makes the book very special to me because it gave me motivation and it gave me something to work towards. But that was a huge time cost. And
So what took 2 years? Sorry, the writing is 3 months.
The content creation and then the editing process and the design and everything like that. Because we're you know, I took every photo you see in my book.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm the writer, but also content creator,
Got it.
and that just that triples, quadruples the amount of time that goes into something. But I'm also very particular, and that's something else I've very much had to learn is you have to learn when to trust other people. And it's not always better to do something yourself.
Very good.
But you have to learn how to do it first.
Yes.
Because otherwise then you can't manage people properly. Obviously you can't be a jack of all trades, you can't do everything, but you also do need to take the time to understand something before you pass it on to someone else.
Yes.
Because it's harder then to time manage them and yourself.
And when can you trust someone else? So in your
That's
experience,
a very hard one.
so in your experience, like what did you need to go through in
Yeah.
order to go, okay, I can trust, or I need to build the strength? Like what did that look like for you?
I think it's a personality thing, 100%. So I don't hire based off experience. I guess it depends on the industry. Obviously, if you're a doctor,
Yeah.
you're not hiring someone because they're cool.
Yeah.
But when you work in an industry like mine, you're blessed because you can actually hire based off personality. And I think that if you've got the right principles in there and the right morals, and it's also just this genuine eager want
Yes.
that you want to see in people. If I see that, I'm much more likely to trust someone. If I can see someone's trying to pull the shades over me, you've lost my trust and you're gone.
Yeah.
It does take a while for me to get to the point where I literally won't trust someone.
Yeah.
But it's those little things. It's taking ownership over things.
Yeah.
It's the ability to come to someone with a solution to a problem when a problem happens. Instead of going, I've got this problem.
Yeah.
And then they stare at you or they wait for you to say something. You're like, what were you thinking you're going to do about the problem?
Yeah.
Come to me with the solution before you... Problem's fine, but come to me with a solution rather than just giving me dropping a problem on my lap and going, okay. And then, and then just the ability to do things without being asked.
Yes.
And just going, seeing it, taking initiative and going, well, there's a problem here, I'd like to fix that. You know, something it brings me a lot of fulfillment when I do that for other people. My brother, right, for example, is a good anecdotal one. His garage, I live in a tiny 50 square metre apartment. So running a food trailer out of there, quite difficult. But we have a lot of packaging and everything that we need to keep in stock for the trailer. We've got 30,000 sheets of Dip-It paper, greaseproof paper. And my brother has been taking the brunt of a lot of that crap sitting around in his garage. And so I took a little extra time out of one of my days where I was going in to do Dip-It, and he was away this weekend. Actually, he wasn't working on it this weekend. And I said, you know what, actually, I think this is an opportunity for me to try and do something else for him and make his life easier as a good business partner. And so I went in there, I built this little like steel frame thing, and then I unpacked boxes and stacked it up so it's easy to find, easy to look for. And it turned this room that was, you know, about this big from being covered in boxes to being in one corner.
Nice.
And that for me both fulfilled me from an optimization point of view, because I was that person inside me that needs to make things ordered. Came through, and that's the discipline you get a bit from sport. But then also it was an opportunity for me to give back to my brother, considering he's taking a lot of responsibility by holding this stuff on his trailer. So for me, that is the absolute nugget of gold, that if you find that in someone, you can trust them, because it means they're not thinking about themselves every single step of the way. They're thinking about someone else before themselves.
That's good.
And that's important in business.
100%. So what you've just touched on there, there's an amazing book called Drive. And Drive talks about finding the right team members, creating the right framework to set them up for success. And it says there's 3 things, I think it's 3, I'll hopefully get it right, 3 things that you want to instill in your team and look for in a team. Number 1 is around autonomy. So something you've just touched on there is that no one asked you to do that. However, you know, obviously it's your own business, so you have the ability to go and do something autonomously. Next is around mastery. So mastery we haven't touched on, but to encourage your team members in your business, you want to give them the opportunity they can have continual learning and progression, so they can kind of see a future in your business. Autonomy, mastery, and the third one I've forgotten. Of course I have, which is around. Damn, it's a really good one. So anyway, we'll get back to that. But yeah, so it's really, really interesting you say that. And so these kind of insights are you're learning yourself. Something you touched on there was really piqued my interest around that parallel between business and high performance. And you said around the learning lessons for that the triathlon days taught you. What else did it teach you?
Oh, everything.
Well, no, your dad taught you something.
Well, no, it's a combination of it. It's a combination of it all. it taught me discipline. It taught me to work in a team.
So what does discipline look
Discipline
like
is when it sucks, sometimes you just got to do it.
How often does it suck?
A lot. Every day. No, I'm kidding. Waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go do swim squad.
Yes.
4 or 5 days a week, and then going to school, having to try hard in school, and then also coming home and training. Doing 20 hours of training a week as a 15, 16-year-old, while also going to school and sometimes also working a job.
Yes.
It just taught me that sometimes when it's tough, you just got to get going. You just got to put your head down. You got to do the work, and sometimes the biggest battle is just turning up and getting it done. 100%. You don't need to be the best person in the world. You don't need to be exciting and make people happy that day. You just need to go in and do it. And sometimes those days you have to do, and they suck because I like being there and being high energy and bringing that energy to people. But sometimes you just got to put your head down. The other thing was definitely autonomy. Yes. I was very lucky. I had probably one of the best coaches you could ask for. Awesome. He lived an hour and 15 away, but my parents would let us go stay with him for a weekend or maybe even a week to do training and everything like that. And so we would get a budget for food. So I learnt to budget when I was like 15, 14 years old. Nice. We had a budget for food. So I had to also think about how many ingredients we need for this many people we're cooking for. So we would have to cook, we would have to clean, we would have to we'd have to think about what our coach might like as well. Yes. We had some blunders when it came to cooking. 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds trying to cook nachos and stuff like that. But we had to learn to think outside of the box, and we had to learn to budget. We had to learn to work together as well. Like I used to always go with one of my best mates, Damo. And so we would have to coordinate times, pick each other up. We did that for training as well. So and that's another thing that triathlon taught me, or sport in general, is teamwork. Yes. You're part of a team. It's not just you. So your actions affect others. Yes. So you need to make those decisions based off your teammates as well, and that's huge in business. Huge. Because people matter, and people are what makes a business run.
And how do you instill, so those learning lessons you're sharing there are really, really powerful, and they absolutely have parallels in business. How do you instill that with your team that haven't had that background of that triathlon, haven't had that fitness, like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is in the hiring process. I look for people who've had a bit of an outside of the box experience in life, who maybe have floated around or tried a lot of different things. And I think the most important thing is actually patience. Being patient with people and explaining to them that the most important thing is that they're learning. Mistakes happen, and if you yell and if you get angry, if you get all flustered and everything like that, first you'll show that you're not a calm person. You don't know how to deal with pressure. So if
pressure
your
makes
first,
diamonds.
Yeah, it does, right? If your first reaction in a pressure situation is to blow up, what kind of leadership is that showing? So I think that being able to be patient is actually a huge part of helping people grow, and giving people the space to actually learn. Because if people are so scared of making a mistake around you that they start hiding things from you, then they're not going to be truthful with you. And so I'd much rather hear about a mistake. And sometimes they don't always tell you. And you have to show patience there. But then it's also just encouraging and just being a role model. Obviously there will be a point where you can't do everything and you can't show people, or you can't be the guy that gets in there the earliest and goes home the latest. But there are points where you can show that you're a role model by doing things the right way. And when we're on the trailer, I'll wash up. I'll do the washing up sometimes. Nice. It's just to show that you aren't above the shit, You are in the shit with them. You're part of the crap. And people want to see that. They want to feel like they're part of going through shit together. My wife and I, we went through really horrible things in the first weeks of our marriage, and she just wanted. I was calm, and because she was like, sometimes I just want to see you cry. I want to see you frustrated because I want to see you're in it with me. And so I've learned how to channel that as well. So it's also sharing with you, employees when sometimes things aren't the easiest.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, being real with people, showing that you're not perfect and you make mistakes. Oh man, the amount of times I have said to my employees, I've done that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you learn.
That's good. So you piqued my interest again. What is the biggest mistake you've made in Dippett's history?
Oh, Dippet? Dippet's only 4 weeks old.
Okay, so in the career in the different the kind of different genres you've been doing, what is the biggest blunder to date?
Oh, biggest blunder. It's hard to find a big, ginormous blunder. I think one that was pretty, a little bit more funny.
Yes.
Was actually a time when I wasn't media trained, and I won a barbecue eating competition, and I was interviewed by, I don't know whether it was Channel 9, I can't remember exactly, but I was interviewed by someone, and they asked me a question, and I basically said that the food that we ate was really hard to eat because it wasn't very good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And so I pretty much said, the pulled pork was really dry, so it was hard to eat. And
that's good.
And I remember, like, she went a little bit quiet, and I was like, oh no, I could feel it already.
And you were live.
Yeah, live.
Oh, perfect.
And then obviously the head of Competitive Eating Australia came up to me after. He's like, mate, you got to think about that stuff. Like, you know, these people put on this event for us. You know, be a little bit more political next time. Yes. And I was like, fair enough.
That's good.
Mea culpa.
That's good. That is a good learning lesson.
Yeah.
What haven't I asked you? What's top of mind? What's something you want to share before we close out today?
I think you've touched on most of it. If there's any message I'd give to people, it's don't be afraid to get in the shit.
Yep.
You know, people want to see you there with them. Don't be afraid to put in hard work, and just do your best. Be the best. Be eager and hungry for food, good food, and just go out there and give it a go.
That's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining me. I think the part that's resonated with me today, one, I'm in good company with someone that's high energy. That's always nice to see. But I think something that's really touched me today is around that upbringing you had, around like those really important values that your family's brought to you, and how that's resonated through your life. But most importantly for me is like how you've acknowledged that. I think, there's a lot of people that try and distance themselves and be like, I've created all this myself. It's really warm and awesome to see is like you're acknowledging that, and I think that's really encouraging to a lot of people, as well as your ability to adapt, change, and bring in that high performance, even though you're eating 1.2 kilos. So I thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Frank.